In the shadowed workshops of Kyiv's sprawling defense hubs, where the air hums with the whir of 3D printers and the acrid tang of soldering irons, Ukraine's latest nightmare for Russian forces took shape. The Potbellied, a squat, bulbous FPV drone that looks more like a bloated hornet than a high-tech predator. Dubbed for its rotund, payload-swollen fuselage that gives it a paunchy silhouette under moonlight, this unassuming UAV has become the stuff of whispered dread among Russian conscripts along the Donbass front. On October 13, 2025, as autumn fog clung to the trenches near Pokrovsk, the first combat batches rumbled toward the line in unmarked vans, their operators, battle-hardened pilots from the 42nd Mechanized Brigade, plotting strikes that could tip the grinding stalemate. What makes the Potbellied unstoppable? It's not raw speed or stealth, it's sheer, relentless volume, cheap, mass-produced, and engineered to overwhelm Russia's vaunted electronic warfare nets, turning the sky into a swarm too thick to swat. The Potbellied's genesis traces back to the scorched earth of summer 2025, when Ukrainian drone losses spiked 40% against Russian jamming pods like the KRASUKHA-4, which blanketed the front in a digital fog. Traditional FPV drones, sleek racers rigged with RPG warheads, were dropping like flies, their signals hijacked mid-flight or fried by directed energy bursts. Enter the innovators at 3D Tech, a ragtag collective of engineers in Lviv who pivoted from consumer quadcopters to battlefield beasts. "We needed something fat, dumb, and happy," quipped lead designer Olena Kovalenko in a leaked Telegram interview, her voice crackling over encrypted lines. The result? A 2-meter wingspan drone weighing 12 kilograms, its belly, a reinforced composite pod crammed with 5 kilos of plastic explosive or thermobaric gel. At $800 a pop, half the cost of a basic Mavic, the Potbellied isn't built for finesse. It's a brute force hauler, launched from hidden catapults in ruined farmsteads, hurtling at 120 km per hour with a 10-kilometer range, its GoPro eye feeding live feeds to operators hunkered in shipping containers 5 clicks back. What sets it apart, and why Russia can't stop it, boils down to 3 devilish tweaks. First, the Potbelly itself, a modular warhead bay that swaps payloads mid-mission, from cluster munitions that scatter like shrapnel rain to incendiary mixes that ignite Russian foxholes into napalm pits. Videos from the brigade's trials, smuggled onto X on October 10, show one Potbelly dumping a dragon's breath load, thermite-laced pellets, onto a T-90 tank convoy near Avdiivka, the flames chewing through reactive armor like acid on tin. Russian crews bailed out screaming, their night vision goggles melting in the blaze. Second, anti-jam armor. The drone's brain is a hardened Raspberry Pi clone, shielded in Faraday mesh and running on frequency-hopping algorithms cribbed from Starlink code. Russian EU operators, glued to their scopes in rear echelons, report ghost signals, the Potbellied flipping channels 50 times a second, evading locks like a minnow in a net. In a September test swarm over Kharkiv, 28 of 30 Potbellieds punched through a simulated Krasuka field, downing 2 Orlan 10 scouts in the process. But the real killer app? Swarm tactics. Ukraine's churning out 500 Potbellieds weekly from basement fabs in Dnipro and Kharkiv, flooding the front with decoys and kamikazes in waves of 20 to 50. Russian Pantsir systems, priced at $15 million apiece, chew through ammo packs trying to track the bloated blobs, their radars overwhelmed by the chaff of cheap fakes, dummies with LED flares that mimic heat signatures. A leaked FSB intercept from October 8, shared by OSINT sleuths on Telegram, captures a panicked Russian colonel, there. Everywhere, fat drones, no pattern, just death from above. The Potbellied's not elegant, it's evolutionary, a Darwinian hack born of attrition. Where Russia's Shaheds, those Iranian knockoffs, fly predictable loops at 180 km per hour, the Potbellied hugs terrain, dipping into valleys and popping over ridges, its Potbelly drag making it wobble just enough to dodge flak. Now, as of October 13, the Potbellied's headed straight for the meatgrinder, the Pokrovsk salient, where Russian meat waves have clawed 8 kilometers since July, leaving 20,000 of their own in shallow graves. Ukrainian command, fresh off the October 9-12 drone blitz on Moscow's grid and towers, sees the front as the next canvas. At dawn on the 13th, a convoy from the 65th Brigade rolled into position near Slidov, crates stamped with innocuous fruit labels hiding 200 units. Operators, many ex-gamers with calluses from controller grips, sync their rigs to Kropova, the digital targeting map that fuses drone feeds with satellite pings. "We're not just striking, we're saturating," said Brigade Intel officer, Viper, his face blurred in a viral X clip. The plan? Dawn swarms to shred Russian staging areas, where conscripts huddle in mud-slick trenches, their AKs useless against the sky. Early reports from the line, time-stamped 6:17 a.m., describe a belly barrage, 30 Potbellieds dumping payloads on a BMP convoy, the explosions blooming like fungal spores, flipping vehicles and torching fuel dumps. Russian radios crackled with chaos, drones. Fat ones, incoming. The frontlines, a 1,200-kilometer scar from Kherson to Kharkiv, have become a drone duelist's coliseum, but the Potbellied tips the scales. Russian countermeasures, netting over bunkers, shotgun-toting, drone hunters, snag the odd flyer, but not the horde. In a single October 11 probe near Vuhledar, 42 Potbellieds claimed 15 Russian casualties and 3 Ural trucks, per Ukrainian tallies verified by grainy helmet cams. The weapon's psychological edge is sharper than its warhead. Conscripts, many yanked from Siberian prisons, now scan skies with paranoia, sleep shattered by the telltale buzz, a low, guttural drone like a stuffed hornet in flight. Desertions spiked 25% in Donetsk sectors last month, per leaked GRU memos, with notes scrawled in snow, the bellies come at night. For Ukraine, it's vengeance incarnate, retribution for the 600-plus drones Russia hurled at Kyiv on September 28, killing 4 in a barrage that lit the capital like a bonfire. Yet the Potbellied's rollout isn't without risks. Production bottlenecks, scarce lithium batteries and composite resins smuggled past Black Sea blockades, cap output at 2,000 monthly, forcing triage, priority to hot zones like Kharkov, where Russian artillery pounds daily. Russian hackers, probing Ukrainian supply chains, nearly derailed a September shipment, but 3 DTEC's decentralized fabs, pop-up labs in abandoned schools, kept the line humming. Western allies, wary of escalation, funnel covert aid, U.S. chips via Poland, French thermite formulas through Romania. President Zelensky, in an October 12 address from his fortified Kyiv bunker, hailed it obliquely, "Our inventors birth weapons that bellies full of justice, unstoppable, like our will." His words, broadcast amid flickering lights from the recent grid hits, rallied a nation where drone sirens are now lullabies. Strategically, the Potbellied reshapes the calculus. Russia's $2 trillion war machine, bloated on oil and conscripts, bleeds from 1,000 cuts, fuel depots aflame, ammo caches vaporized, morale cratered. Economists in Warsaw pegged the indirect cost at $1.2 billion quarterly, lost productivity from jammed logistics, repairs to shredded panzers. Ukrainian gains, modest but mounting, reclaim 2 square kilometers weekly. In Donetsk, the Potbellied swarms buying time for storm shadow strikes deeper in. Moscow's response, a frantic scramble, redeployed S-400s to the front, bounties on drone pilots, $50,000 per head, even experimental, swarm eaters, microwave emitters that cook electronics en masse. But the bellies keep coming, their Potbellies pregnant with payloads, indifferent to the fire below. As October 13 wore on, the first full Potbellied assault unfolded under a slate-gray sky. From concealed launchers in birch groves, 50 drones lumbered aloft, their bellies sagging with heat charges tuned for T-72 underbellies. Russian spotters, peering through periscopes, radioed warnings too late. The swarm crested the rise, bellies bursting in synchronized fury. Explosions rippled like dominoes. A BTR vaporized in a geyser of mud and metal, crew flung skyward, an artillery nest silenced in thermobaric whoosh, the overpressure pulping lungs a kilometer out. Ukrainian feeds, raw and triumphant, tallied 12 kills, 0 losses to intercepts. "They can't stop the belly," Viper messaged his squad, emoji fire raining down. By dusk, as medevac choppers winched the wounded, the front exhaled, Russian probes halted, their officers recalibrating in smoke-filled HQs. The Potbellied isn't a panacea, war's grind favors the grinder. But in this attritional hell, where lives hang on lithium and code, it's a fulcrum, Ukraine's Potbellied promise that innovation outpaces invasion. Russian high command, poring over maps in Rostov, knows it, the bellies are here, and more swell on the horizon. For the conscripts in their sodden holes, the buzz grows louder, a harbinger that the unstoppable has arrived, belly first, to the front.